Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Sharifa, and my music name is New Lily. Well, I say music name, y'all, but I mean, it's so weird and hard to explain. I don't really do music. It's like I have my own niche going on here. It's this weird thing that I'm doing. It's like, I don't know if it would be categorized as music. What it is poetry that I'm doing over the beat. So in these intros, I always say, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharifa, and my music name is New Lily, but I think from now on I'm going to start saying my poetry name is New Lily, or my poetry moniker, or the name that I go by under my pen name is New Lily, right? Because I don't know if you would, I mean, I am a musician, I do play guitar, and I also have a trumpet, but I don't know if you would call the thing that I do with my poetry music. I know rapping is a form of poetry, but poetry is not necessarily rapping, and I do freestyling to the beat. I do that off camera. But these things that I do here where I come on camera and I do these little short clips of poems, I don't know that that would be called music. It's a form of music. Yes, there's a beat in the background, but it's really like spoken word poetry. If you really listen to what I'm doing, I'm just doing it over the music, and I have a cadence, and that's what makes it similar to rap because I'm doing it to the beat. You know, some spoken word poets that have the music in the background, they're not necessarily saying their poetry to the beat of the music. They don't have a cadence. But because I have a cadence, that's why it might seem more like rap. But if you listen to what I'm doing, it's not rap. It's spoken word poetry over the beat. Anyways, I told y'all about the backlash and stuff I got about my music. You know how they try to paint false narratives with this program. And I've provided more than enough evidence in all of these videos to legitimize my music and to show y'all that I've been doing this my whole life, writing poetry my whole life. So anyways, I was just listening to some of my older songs just because I wanted to listen to my old flow. I like doing that. And when I say old flow, my flow hasn't really changed like that, y'all. It's just that I started experimenting recently. And so my new spoken word poetry, the ones that I've done or created this year, some of them, not all of them, because I can go to BandLab right now and show you some of the ones I created this year where I don't have that sing-song voice. But I have been experimenting with my voice, and recently it's been more of a sing-song voice when I'm saying my poetry. And back then in 2019, when I had recorded for the first time, I told the story in several videos, y'all. Basically, my brother-in-law, who went to church with me, was in communication with some guys that went to the same church as us, but they were from up north, and they all are into music. All of the people in that church were into music, in different ways, whether they were poets, rappers, singers, etc. And so my brother has always been in the studio in and out throughout the years. He's a real rapper. This is not poetry like I said, rap is a form of poetry, but he's literally a rapper. It's not no spoken word anything like what I'm doing. And so he's always been the one that's been into recording and things of that nature. And so back then in 2019, again, this was shortly before I graduated from college. I graduated in 2020. He came to my younger sister and I and told us that he would be going to the studio with these guys that were coming down, and invited us because he knows that I write poetry. He also knows that I freestyle off camera, and he knows that my younger sister does a little singing. We're like a musical, or I could say artistic family. We all do stuff in here: paint, draw, sing, rap, poetry, whatever, So it runs in this family. And so that's why he told us that, and this is how I ended up recording those songs that you see from 2019. It was by fluke, and it was an opportunity that came through my brother-in-law. And I stopped. I kept writing poetry throughout the years. I've always written poetry, but I've never been the kind to record. That recording thing, as I've said in several videos, was a fluke and an opportunity that came through my brother-in-law. And then when I recorded and realized I sounded good, it was just like this dope realization. I already knew that I could write. I've told y'all in all of my videos, and I've expressed to y'all that that's how I communicate. I'm what would be called socially inept. So yes, I can speak well in these videos, and still I struggle. I know y'all hear me struggling, always explaining myself about my grammar being off and, not being a good public speaker. But still I can express myself and I'm communicative in my videos. But then when it comes to face-to-face interactions, I'm really bad at it. I can do enough. I'm old enough now and I've taught throughout the years. I used to be a teacher. So I learned how to adapt and acclimate to my environment and my settings. But I'm not good at socializing with people. It took practice. It took years and years of practice. And even now, still I struggle. And it's worse now that I'm targeted. It's like I said this already. It's almost like I'm regressing back to my old self before I had kind of learned coping mechanisms and how to force myself to socialize at least enough to function. Anyway, so that's how I communicate, through writing. I like to read books. I showed you on my Kindle. I'm an avid reader, and I like to write. That's how I express myself. That's how I communicate. That's why I'm a good writer. Also, typically people with ADD, Asperger's, non-divergent brains are typically artistic, and they typically are writers, musicians, etc. That's why you see a lot of people in the music industry. Or
Guys, I made a mistake there. I said non-divergent brains, and I meant to say neurodivergent brains. So brains that are wired differently or are a divergence from the norm, not non-divergent.
famous poets like Emily Dickinson, who was one of the greatest poets ever, and I'm not putting myself up there with her. I'm not. I'm not a narcissist like they like to try and claim. And I already refuted that too in my narcissism video. Y'all check it out. But I'm just saying, somebody as great as Emily Dickinson, who was one of the greatest poets ever, was neurodivergent. She was on the spectrum. So it just goes to show you that this is something. There's a connection, a correlation there. When your brain is functioning this way, it's somewhat of a disability, but it's also a blessing in disguise when you have a brain. I don't want to say disability because that has such a negative connotation. But when your brain is wired differently, it can seem like you're a misfit, or it can seem like you don't fit in, or you're misunderstood, or whatever. But the blessing that comes from that is that you are an individual. Not to say no one else. Let me not start talking like that. Everybody has their own individual characteristics, whether they're a misfit or not. So let me not say that. But I'm saying the blessing that comes from that misunderstanding and from being different is that you can think outside the box, and it crafts creativity. And so this is why I'm a good writer, and this is why I've always been a good writer. And that's how I communicate, is via my music. I even explained my method of how I write my poetry. I related it to writing because remember, I used to be an English teacher, and I also graduated with an English, a bachelor's degree in English, right? So I was relating my poetry to writing a paper. I explained how I do it. I explained my process, my writing process, and everything. The poems that I write. Here's somebody speeding flying by now. This is crazy, and I'm sure that's a gang stalker, but let me not bear false witness. I'm just telling y'all, it's. Let me tell y'all what time it is right now. Y'all see that? It's 1:32 a.m. And this is a quiet neighborhood, and somebody's speeding through at this hour. So likely that was a gang stalker, but let me not bear false witness, right? Could be somebody just speeding through at this hour coincidentally when I said that, right? But anytime I can validate my music or legitimize it, then it's a problem. But anyways, and I say music, but again, it's poetry. But anyways, so like I was saying, I relate it to writing as far as like a paper goes, because whenever I was teaching my students how to write a paper, I would tell them about the thesis statement, teaching them how they can basically use the thesis statement as a compass to write their paper. The thesis statement is the last sentence in the first paragraph of your paper. And the thesis statement is basically the statement that says what your whole paper is going to be about. And in that statement, you should include the three things that you're going to focus on, right, in your paper. So you're going to state whatever your topic is. So let's say your topic is about football, and you're writing why. No, let me give a better example. Let's say your topic is about uniforms, and you're trying to fight for a debate why you feel like students shouldn't have to wear a uniform. In your thesis statement, you're going to state clearly what your topic is and three reasons why you feel that way about your topic. And then you use that thesis statement as the compass to write your paper. And so your three body paragraphs are going to be the three reasons that you stated in your thesis statement. It's similar to writing poetry. I told y'all that I take the name of the beat that I'm using to write my poem, and I use that to create my poem, right? To create my poetry. I use it like a compass to create my poetry. I use that one word and I focus on it, and I write the poem. It's similar to a thesis statement in a paper, where you're using the thesis statement as your compass to write your paper. And I even included a link to Harry Mack, excuse me, I keep saying Harry Styles. I'm a fan of Harry Styles as well. Harry Mack, who's one of the best freestylers out there right now, and he has a video teaching people how to freestyle, and he was saying similar things to what I was saying. And when I found the video, I was like, oh my God, you see, this is someone else who writes music, who understands how you do it. And he was talking about the fact that you should focus on one word instead of just trying to do a freestyle off the dome and not focusing on one word. Because when you focus on one word, you don't have all of this extra information coming in, and you don't have too much stuff to dig through. You can focus on that one thing and build off of that. And so there's like literally techniques and tactics used for writing. I'm a writer. hello, you know, and I'm not trying to sound cocky or anything, but I'm just so tired of them coming for my music, coming for my poetry. I'm tired of feeling uncomfortable when I'm writing. You know, I saw this video the other day and they started making a lot of noise campaign in the background. I don't know if it hit a nerve or what because I didn't say anything. I didn't put that video in my news feed. But it was a video from, I don't know if y'all watch the show, probably don't, you don't, who knows. If you do, cool. You know, yay, we watch the same show. But I like to watch Married to Medicine. And I like those reality TV shows, you know, like Real Housewives of Atlanta, etc. I'm your typical girl, even though I'm not a girly girl. I do like those type of shows. And so they were showing a clip from the show with one of the girls from the show, Quad, and she was talking about the fact that the ladies that seemed like were having a problem with her because she had like a house or whatever and she had these different things and she didn't need a man to provide it for her. Like most of them are married, not all of them, you know, some of them are doctors, some of the ladies on the show, and then some of them are doctors' wives. But the point is, it seemed like, from her perspective, it seemed like they were getting on her because when she divorced her husband, she was able to take care of herself and she didn't have to rely on a man for money. And so she said, it seems to me like because she used her brain, right, and she created businesses and she got on the talk show and whatever else she did, she said, it seems to me like my natural God given gifts make you all uncomfortable. And I shouldn't have to, I forgot what word she used exactly. I'm not saying it verbatim, but basically kind of like tame herself down or dim her light to make them comfortable is what she was saying. And so when that was said, they started doing like a bunch of, you know, again, don't want to bear false witness, but I am targeted. You know, I've explained to you all the things that be happening. The dogs, all the dogs started barking in the neighborhood. The cars start revving up and down the road as if I typed that in and looked up that video. They're watching me so hard. They literally saw that that was a short that was in my recommended videos that I just pressed and played. I didn't even say, girl, yes, I feel that way. I didn't say, yes, girl, I know how that feels. I didn't say nothing like that. And they start zooming up and making noise in the neighborhood. I'm like, did that hit a nerve or something? Because it did kind of relate to me and my situation, especially when it comes to this poetry. And not even just the poetry, even the coding. I told you when I was trying to code and become a developer, noise campaigns were happening. The current kept being taken, a lot of stuff, you know? And I'm not trying to be you know, this kind of person. You know, let me just be careful with my words. Don't want problems. And, you know, even if you say truth and the things you're experiencing in this program, you get punished for it. You know, it's this weird thing. Anyway, so I've been writing music for years. Not even music. Again, let me reiterate, poetry for years. I haven't been the kind to record. I've never recorded. That hasn't been me. I can freestyle to the beat. I've always had a cadence, but I've never been somebody that was recording. That started in 2019, like I said, by fluke, because my brother-in-law, like I said, came to me and my younger sister with that opportunity. And this is why you saw that I have a few recordings on my channel from back then, from 2019. Then I even showed y'all the song or the poem. Let me reiterate again, be careful with my words. The poem, Say You Love Me, that I just recently recorded on my band lab. You know, all these new recordings I'm doing on band lab, you know, these little makeshift recordings, and you can see the progression in the music because I've been sitting here at home not working for the last few months. So I've been really honed in on my poetry, you know, and after a while I kind of stopped doing it too because again, I felt like I had to dim myself because of, you know, the reaction I was getting from doing the poetry. But you can listen to my band lab, to some of my older recordings when I first started recording again a few months ago and hear how roachy it sounds, and you can see that I've been practicing and getting better at using the equipment and it's starting to sound better and better. You know, not to say my flow is changing, but the sound is better because I've been practicing and just doing it consistently. And so it's just like, what is the problem? It's not like I came off rip and just started doing this banging music and all that. You know, they can see that it was a progression, kind of like how I was teaching myself how to code. I've throughout the months been teaching myself how to use BandLab and use the equipment. And as far as the writing goes, that stayed the same. I've proven more than once and in several different videos that my writing style has stayed consistent. You can look at my older poems, like I said, I'm about to show that in this video, from back in 2019 when I recorded because of the opportunity my brother-in-law provided for me. And then you can look at my poem, Say You Love Me, that I recorded recently a couple months ago. And I told y'all in several videos, in my Asperger's Part 1 video, and I forgot which other video I talked about it, and in several videos I've brought it up to refute the false narratives they try to paint about my poetry. I told you what they do with this social engineering and shadow networking, painting these false narratives, smear campaign, etc. And all of this started when I came back to Island last year. Remember, I've told y'all in several of my videos, I've been targeted since 2020, right? Um, my targeting went viral when I tried to relocate off Island last year. I resigned from my teaching job in July or June of last year, right? Summertime. I left. I tried to relocate. I did not realize I was a target. I didn't learn until I got back to Island in November of last year. dealt with some things for a few months in the States, realized that something really strange was going on, way more serious than what I had realized. Came back to Ireland. My targeting had went viral at that point because of the reactions I was having to the things that was happening to me in the States. So I came back to Ireland in November, did research, and that was when I learned I was a target. And only then did I start learning all the information that I've learned over the course of the last year. I didn't know any of this stuff before that. And also then was when my targeting changed because, like I said, I had these negative adverse reactions to what was happening to me. And I got the attention of some powerful people in the States. I pissed a lot of people off. My thing went viral, like I said, and my targeting changed. And when I got to this island, things had changed. The tactics being used had changed. They had started to neuromonitor me. I had been injected with the RFID chip and nanobots. My targeting changed. And then all these weird false narratives started floating around. And it started to be like this fight for my freaking morality and this fight for my innocence. It was just crazy what happened when I got back to Ireland. My targeting changed because more people were involved. And so they really started to use the technology that they use on targets. And Eric Snowden talks about this. When you become targeted, especially if you're at a certain level or you piss off the right person or the wrong person, depending on how you look at it, it becomes an all-out smear campaign. It really does. Eric Snowden talked about it. He said, hold on. This is what he said, because they're going to use everything. They're even going to dig in your past and look for things to paint a false narrative about you. False narratives. That's what I've been experiencing. Check out my videos if y'all want to know what I'm talking about, because I realized I didn't do my intro like I typically do. Because I started going off on the New Lily thing, the New Lily part of my intro that I do in the beginning of all my videos, and I didn't do my full intro. But I'm doing it now. For those of you that are new to my channel, in the description box, I always include the links to 3 different videos where I talk about how I became targeted. And there are other videos where I've talked about it as well, y'all. But those 3 videos in particular that I always mention, I'm telling you about it now. It's going to be in the description box in the comment section. And the title of those 3 videos are my How I Became a Targeted Individual full story, the only one that I'm on camera for, and that's almost 12 hours of content, but it's a 7-part video compilation. So it's 7 different parts that I created, and I put it together in one video. But it tells my full story. So basically the things I've been through from my early 20s all the way up until now, age 31, where I'm a full-on target. Because it's been some sort of weird spiritual battle, as I keep saying in these videos, that I've been through since my early 20s. Then you have the summary video, and the summary video just summarizes the story, kind of negates a lot of the extra details, and more so focuses on what caused my targeting. And then the third video is the video I created a couple of weeks ago called Commentating over a clip from my story of.
Yeah, I don't know if you hear that, but that's Ref Campaign. I don't know what it is, but every time I try to make this video, because I've tried several times, and I'm actually trying to merge 3 different clips together. So that's what's going on right now. I'm doing a recording of 3 clips that I've pre-recorded to make this one video. I tried to make it earlier, there was noise campaign. Tried to do it the wee hours of the morning, there was noise campaign. Throughout the video, as you hear me talking, you're gonna hear noise campaign. But now it stopped. Rev campaign, I'm sure the video picked up on that though. I had to stop and let y'all hear. Anyway, let me pause and let the video continue. Let me unpause and let the video continue.
How I became a targeted individual. And in that last video, or that latter video, I basically just went to my full story and I fast forwarded to the part where I talked specifically about what started my targeting. And I recorded that part of the video, and I did commentary over it. So for me, if you're not going to sit and watch the full story, or if you don't have time to, which I completely understand, it's not meant to be watched in one sitting. But if you can watch it, I would appreciate it. And it would help you to see or understand the whole story, because it's, like I said, it's just been a correlation of different weird and strange events since my early 20s. And so if you watch the full story, you'll get the full picture of what's going on. But if you can't, or if you don't have the time, I completely understand, and you'd rather watch the summary or the latter video I mentioned, the commentating over a clip from my full story video. Out of those 2, I would recommend the commentating over a clip video over the summary video, because the commentating over a clip video, similar to the summary, negates some of the extra details, but it still includes a little bit more for you to get more of an understanding of what's going on. Also, you get to see me on camera, not that that matters, but if you're a visual learner or whatever, maybe just seeing me talking might help you stay focused. I don't know, I think the story's rather interesting. But of course, I'm saying that biasedly because it's my story. Of course, it's interesting to me. But it's an interesting story. You know, it's been a crazy, bumpy, strange ride. And if you're targeted, I'm sure you're interested in hearing how someone else became targeted. So I would recommend you listen to the commentating video because, like I said, you see me on camera. That was pulled from my full story, and it's a little bit more in depth than the summary video. And it's about 30 minutes longer, so it's not much longer, but it's more detailed. So I would recommend that over the summary video. And then also, there's another video y'all can check out where I also kind of tell my story, summarize my story, and I more so specifically give details about what happened when I tried to relocate last year. So around the time when I resigned, went to the States and all the crazy stuff happened that led to my targeting going viral and my targeting changing into what it is now. This video that I'm about to show you talks about that. So the part one gaslighting and programming of the targeted individual video, that's that first one that says your mind is programmable and it's 2 hours and 17 minutes long. In that video, I also kind of summarize my story of how I became targeted, but also give more details than in any other video about specifically what happened to me when I tried to relocate off island and what caused my targeting to go viral. This is an explanation for everything, y'all. I've said some extremely offensive stuff, and I shared some extremely offensive Hebrew Israelite propaganda in my vehicle when I was in Florida because of some of the things that I was encountering in this program. It was reactive abuse. I was reacting to the abuse that I was receiving. And I was gaslit about it, of course. They honed in on my negative reaction, created all these false narratives. Of course, I made a lot of enemies. My targeting went viral, and so this part of the story isn't often heard. And so this is why I like to push this video so you can hear my side of the story. So anyways, those are the videos you can check out, y'all. I don't think I'll be putting the link to the part one video in the description box. I don't typically do that, but you can just scroll down and click on it yourself. But I will put the link to my full story, how I became targeted, my summary video, and my commentating over a clip video. And then also I typically include links to the insect drone technology that's used to surveil targets. I typically include that in the comment section and description box as well, or also known as MAVs, micro air vehicles. And then I also include a link to two doctors that talk about this program, and the technology used. So that will be in the description box and the comment section as well. I'm sorry for pausing, y'all. I'm just like, hold on a minute, y'all. Y'all, I didn't mean to pause like that. Yeah, I know y'all heard me pause, like completely pause. I don't know if you can hear the tip-tap, pitter-patter sound outside in the street. But, this is the island, so we have horses down here. You see people on horseback and stuff. It's kind of like the country if you're from the States. It's that kind of vibe, like natural, rural type of vibe. But I know I just showed y'all what time it is. It's 1:47 a.m. So typically we don't have people walking with horses in the street at 1:47 a.m. at night. So I want you to understand, again, I'm not going to bear false witness, but likely that was, gang stalking activity. And I think it's because I mentioned the link to the insect drones or whatever, because they say I talk too much and, trying to paint it like that's why I'm being punished or whatever. But that's not the case, because again, I reiterate, my targeting has been going on or ongoing. It started in 2020, and it's been ongoing for about 3 years now. And the only reason I even started making these videos is because I tried to leave island because I thought it would be contained to the island. And I didn't realize it was an actual program. I thought it was just something spiteful that was being done because I sent the text message. And to know what I'm talking about, y'all gotta watch my story. Tried to leave, all that crazy stuff happened. Came back. And that was when I learned that I was targeted because I did research after what I experienced in the mainland in the States. And that's when I started making my videos. So I've only been making the videos for the last year, y'all. So they can't paint it like that's what the punishment is about, Like, you're trying to shut me up and close me down. But I'm making these videos because I'm experiencing this unfair treatment, and I needed to tell my story. I'm seeking justice. I want to be left alone. I keep reiterating in these videos, the moment they leave me alone, take the cameras off me, stop doing the strange covert harassment, and all the other tactics that's being done, let me live my normal life like I deserve to live as an innocent human, right? The moment they do that, I'll stop making these videos. Why do you think I'm making the videos? It's because of the things that I'm experiencing and the unfair and unjust treatment. So it's gaslighting to make noises when I say certain things in my video when I'm just talking about this in the first place because of what's being done to me. and how far things were taken. I'll stop making these videos. Shoot, I don't want to keep making targeted individual videos, and I've made enough at this point. I keep saying I'm not going to keep making them, and actually that's not what this video is about. It kind of warped and turned into that because, again, I'm trying to legitimize my poetry because I don't like what's being done with these false narratives. And so that's where I started mentioning the targeted individual stuff again. It's kind of hard to avoid when you're targeted, because everything becomes enmeshed with this situation when you're when you're targeted. So it's hard to negate that when you're talking about things everyday life. It always somehow creeps in. It's terrible. But anyways, I just want to make normal content. I just want to make workout videos. I just want to make career updates. I just want to make like holistic health videos. Regular stuff like a regular young woman would make. I'm only 31. I'm making 32 this month on the 22nd, December 22nd, if the Most High spares my life. That's the type of stuff I want to talk about. I want to talk about normal stuff. I don't want to be sitting here talking about some weird covert program and harassment. I don't want to make these videos. I don't want to do this. I'm doing this for my own protection. And I'm doing this to be quite real to help other targets because now I know what this feels like. I can empathize. That's what it's about. But the moment they leave me alone, I will stop making the targeted individual videos. And actually, whether they leave me alone or not, I've already said in these recent videos, I don't intend to keep making these targeted individual videos. I've made enough. I've refuted everything that they try to come with. And I have a video for every tactic used in the program at this point. But really, this video is about my poetry because just now, again, sending me more stimuli with false narratives, it annoyed me. But even before they did that, I was actually just listening to my older recordings from 2019. And I was like, damn, the flow still, even though it's a little different, the flow was still fire. Not to sound, cocky or whatever you like to say, narcissist, whatever. The flow was still dope. And my penmanship was the same. My writing has remained the same. I keep showing y'all. I showed y'all in several videos. And this is why just now I was breaking down to you what my technique is when I write my poetry to let you know I know what I'm doing. I'm a writer. But I was also trying to show y'all that my writing hasn't changed. Even if my flow has changed a little bit, my writing hasn't. I've always used figurative language. I've always used homophones and sometimes even double entendres. I like to use figurative language and play with words. That's how I am when I write and this is what makes me a lyricist. There are writers, there are rappers, there are poets, there are lyricists. I'm what would be called a lyricist because I'm really good with words and I always have been. That's a gift from the Most High. I can't help that that's how I was made. I'm not a social person. I'm not somebody that knows how to go in a room and make conversation like how typical regular people do. So this is my blessing. I know how to I know how to communicate through words, and I know how to use words. I like reading, I like writing. This is my blessing because I don't know how to socialize like your average person. So why is that a problem? Anyway, so I wanted to show y'all I've already showed y'all these songs already before, but this "Say You Love Me" song, I wrote that poem in 2018. I wrote that poem, so this was before I had ever even recorded with my brother-in-law. The recordings with my brother-in-law happened in 2019. I've been writing for years, and I'm so glad, right? Because I'm not the kind of person that holds on to stuff. Even my books, I had like 3 huge boxes of books when I was in school in my early 20s. I showed y'all in my Asperger's Part 1 video, I think it was the Part 2 video, the conversation, it was the Asperger's and music connection video. The conversation between my sister and I, just showing y'all again, trying to legitimize the fact that I have Asperger's because I feel like I have to prove everything. That my sister and I were conversing about the fact that I had lost all my books. They were in a box and I had not lost, I left them up there. When I moved from Tallahassee back home to this island in my early 20s, there's a lot of stuff that I left up there in Tallahassee. I couldn't afford to bring it all down. And that was part of what was left up there, my books. I had like boxes and boxes of books. I could have had a library. And now I have a Kindle. So grateful I learned about Kindle a few years ago. And now all of my books are in Kindle. And that's not even nowhere near as many books as I had. So I was just trying to show y'all that I don't hold on to things throughout the years. I've even given away my clothes, which I'm regretting now that I'm targeted, and I'm not working, the way that I used to work. I'm used to working multiple jobs. I was a teacher, etc. I had a huge wardrobe. And so I always felt like more clothes would be coming. And so I gave my clothes away, just again, not one of those people that holds on to things. First of all, in school, I talked about it. When I was moving back and forth between the Airbnbs, it was too hard packing all the clothes. I had so much clothes, y'all. I had like 3 suitcases full of clothes, and I gave away half of my clothes to Goodwill, right? And then the other half of my clothes, I gave away recently when I tried to relocate off island, and all the crazy stuff was happening, and I kind of started to feel like I was on the run. When I was in Tennessee in my rental, I remember giving away basically, you could say, the remainder of my clothes. I only kept one duffel bag of clothes. And so that's what I have now, a duffel bag of clothes. And I'm targeted, and I'm not working consistently. Just kind of found out I'll be doing security again, so that's a blessing I'm grateful for. Still waiting to hear back from the correction officer job. I told you I went and did the psych evaluation, etc. Have not heard back from them yet, and I actually said I'll probably call next week to check on that. It's kind of a mixture of fear and, I'm just being real with you. I really don't want to hear bad news about that. And I'm not trying to be negative either. I'm really trying not to be, but you know how it is when you're targeted, you never know what's going on. So I'm not trying to be negative, but at the same time, that's where I've been procrastinating about calling, because typically, me of old, this is why I've always had jobs. I'm the kind of person that hits the pavement and calls and keeps up and, is very persistent until I get the job. But with the targeting, it's a whole different situation going on. And so for me, it's just kind of like, I don't want to call and hear bad news kind of way. So I just feel like if I don't call, at least the opportunity is still there in my mind. This kind of way. It's weird and stupid. But I already said I'm gonna call next week and see what's going on. I am. I'm gonna call and figure out what's going on. But anyway, so I'm gonna be doing security, and I'm grateful for that. I did find out at least that's working out. Next week I actually have a schedule, so I'm glad about that, y'all. Anyway, so I'll probably be able to get some clothes. That's all I'm trying to say. But right now it's been rough. I haven't been working for the last few months, and I don't have much clothes anymore, which is not typical me. I forgot what I was saying. I was just trying to show y'all that I don't hold on to things. So even with my poetry, I haven't held on to it. I had books and books of poetry from high school and throughout the years. I don't have them anymore. And so that "Say You Love Me" poem that I found by fluke, that's the most high. That is the most high. The fact that I was able to find that poem just when I needed it to prove that I've been writing the same way for years, I was so grateful when I found that. And I wasn't even looking for it either. I actually didn't even remember that I emailed it to myself. That poem's from early 2018, the "Say You Love Me" poem. And you can see my writing style is the same. Using homophones, I used a double entendre. I broke that poem down in, it was either my Asperger's Part 1 video or my Asperger's Part 2 video. I don't remember which one. Asperger's and Music Connection video. I broke down that poem, and the fact, and just showing y'all that my lyrics and my penmanship hasn't really changed. I've been a lyricist, not trying to sound conceited. I'm just being real because they keep trying to come for my poetry. So anyways, I forgot what I was saying. So I found that poem by fluke, like literally I was actually digging through the inbox looking for evidence or receipts about that cyber stalking, cyberbullying situation. And I wasn't even going to look for those receipts. But again, that was something else that they kept coming for, like I wasn't being honest about that situation when I provided more than enough evidence about that too by word of mouth. Shoot, someone in my close circle kind of confirmed on camera, they're watching us, that she remembers the incident. I don't want to go into too many details. I don't want to talk about it because I have a bad habit of bringing that. It's just I got a lot of flack for that situation too, and this is why I started to talk about it so incessantly in my videos, because I wasn't before. I started to get backlash about it. For me, when I know I'm right about something or I feel like I've been wronged in something, it's hard to let it go, and then I start to harp on it, because I really wasn't harping on that situation until I started getting a lot of backlash about it. But I don't want to talk about that situation. But the point is, when I was going through my emails, that's what I was looking for evidence to validate what I was saying about that situation. And that was when I found the "Say You Love Me" poem by accident. Never recorded it because I wrote it before I started recording. Like I told y'all, the recording started by fluke in 2019. So then recently, now that I've been doing the recordings this year and I found that poem, I decided to record it on my band lab. And so this is where you got the "Say You Love Me" that I wrote. Not wrote, it was written since 2018, but that I recorded recently. Anyways, I just wanted to show y'all my music from way back when, from like 4 years ago when I recorded for the first time. And even though the flow, like I said, sounds a little different, I can go to my band lab right now and show you some of the songs that I wrote this year where the flow sounds different, even different now to what I'm doing now. So I'm just experimenting with my voice. But the point is, my cadence hasn't changed. The cadence is the way that you say the music, the poem, or the words to the beat. So you know how some people can write a beat?
I made a mistake there, guys. Cadence and flow is pretty much synonymous. They're the same thing, basically. Your flow is your cadence, how you're saying the words to the beat of the music. So, what I meant to say was my tone changed. So, my tonality. So, now I'm using more of like a sing song tone. And before I was using more of like this West Coast, Nate Dogg, Cali girl type of, almost Queen Latifah kind of too type of tone. So it's my tone that changed. But my cadence slash flow has remained the same. So that's what I meant to say. And I think a few other times in this clip, I make the mistake of differentiating between cadence and flow. but they're not different. They're the same thing. So I just want to reiterate what changed was my tone, not my cadence, not my flow. Cadence and flow is the same thing.
So let me give you an example. You know how they say Blueface can't ride the beat? You know the rapper Blueface? And I'm not trying to talk bad about anybody. I'm just giving y'all an example. I don't think I need to explain cadence to some of you. Some of y'all are into music, but some people aren't. So this is why I'm not trying to be condescending or like a know-it-all. I'm just really explaining to those of you that don't know about music or aren't interested in, not to say aren't interested in, but aren't familiar with the terminology or whatever. So like how, for instance, Blueface the rapper, how when he's rapping they say he sounds offbeat. That's the cadence. He doesn't have a good cadence. Cadence is being able to ride the beat, to say the words to the beat, and it flows smoothly. My cadence hasn't changed. My writing hasn't changed, my writing style. The only thing that has changed is the sound of my voice. And not even, you can still hear it's my voice, but the way that I'm saying it. So, like I'm saying in my newer songs or my newer poems, I'm saying it in a more sing-song voice. Back then, when I was doing it, when I had recorded for the first time, I was singing it in more of like you could say it was almost like a West Coast Nate Dogg type of voice. I remember my brother-in-law even saying, "Dang, you sound like Nate Dogg. You sound like the female Nate Dogg," is what he was telling me back then. And then, like I said, a few months ago when I first started doing it, I wasn't doing the sing-song voice. I just kind of more had a regular. I'm gonna actually show you. Oh, I can't. I realized this recording app doesn't record the songs on my BandLab, so I can only play the videos for you that I have here on YouTube. But if I go over to BandLab and try and play some of those,
Guys, I actually am going to share some songs with you from BandLab, a couple songs that I created back in 2019, just so you can see again that my writing style has not changed. And also just hearing that my cadence remained the same, although my tone changed. And there's even a song called Levels that I wrote back then that to me seems more like the poetry I'm writing now, this year, more abstract. But it's still the same thing. It's still the figurative language, the use of wordplay, even with my poem Say You Love Me, that I'm going to talk about in a bit in this clip from 2018, you can hear it's the same figurative language, wordplay, homophones, etc. But I think Levels, the vibe that I got from that poem, reminds me more of the poetry I've been writing this year. But I will be sharing some songs with you all from my BandLab after not this clip. I have 3 clips that I'm going to be recording. After this clip, the next clip is going to be me continuing on with sharing Say You Love Me, the recording of it. Because for some reason, not for some reason, I accidentally stopped the first recording, the first clip, the clip that I'm recording right now, prematurely. And so it was in the middle of me sharing the Say You Love Me poem. So the next clip, clip number 2, is the continuation of me sharing that poem. So I'm not going to share the stuff with BandLab after this clip, but after the second clip, then I'll go to BandLab and share the songs that I want to share with you. And then I'll share the third clip, which is just about 2 minutes of content, me just showing you another video where you can hear more information about my poetry and, me refuting some of the false narratives that started swirling about my poetry, and also just telling you what made me start doing it again in the first place. That's what clip 3 is about. So, anyways, I will be sharing more stuff with you. But what's going to happen is I'm going to go over to BandLab after the second clip, and I'm going to download some of those songs into my. As a matter of fact, they might be there already because earlier I had downloaded them when I tried to make this recording. So I might not have to do that. But I can't record from BandLab. The audio stops working. If you check out my narcissism video, you'll see that that happened when I tried to share 2 poems with you all from my BandLab. So what I'm going to have to do is go over to BandLab, download the songs that I want to share with you. It's just 3 or 4 songs, and then share it with you directly from my photo album. But they might be there already. I can't recall if I deleted them or not. But anyway, so just look forward to that after clip 2.
songs for you. Those of you that watched my narcissism video, you'll know what I'm talking about because I did try to play some songs on my BandLab and the audio, you couldn't hear the audio. I would have went over to my BandLab right now and showed y'all when I first started doing the music again, the recordings a few months ago. You can hear some of those songs before I started doing the sing song voice, just experimenting, just playing around with my voice. Before I started doing that, I was just more so in, it wasn't even the Nate Dogg sound that I was doing back in 2019. It was a whole different thing there too. I just experiment with my voice. The point is my cadence hasn't changed, and my penmanship, the way that I write, hasn't changed. My writing style hasn't changed. Just the way that I'm saying the words. So the tone that I'm using, I'm changing it, I'm playing up with it. Many artists do that. That's what makes a good artist. It's called versatility. So that's all that is, right? So anyway, I want to play my songs from before, and please don't take offense to the lyrics of ADHD. You know what these false narratives they like to paint and stuff? This was one of those examples of what Eric Snowden was talking about, where he said they're going to take things from your past and use it. This doesn't look good. With some of the offensive stuff I shared in my car in Florida, this ADHD song looks problematic now, but it's not. And it's the only song that I have that might seem kind of problematic. You know, all my other songs back then, or poems, I should say, were more so just about regular stuff like girl stuff. Like Love Thyself was about my ex using me. You know, if you listen to my story, you'll hear what happened with the guy that, you know, I've had many exes, but the main ex. So I keep calling him the main ex. I've dated guys longer than him. No, let me think about it actually. No, because I actually think he was my longest relationship, you know? Because I was with him for a year and change. And every other guy I've dated for it, it's been under a year. Like it's never gotten to a year. But aside from him being my longest relationship, he's the one that took my, you know, V card or whatever. I talked about him in my story. So those of y'all that have been following me, you know about this infamous ex. Anyway, that's what Love Thyself was about. It was about him. And then ADHD was just me talking about my experience with ADHD. You know, back then I was into holistic health. I have been throughout the years since my early 20s. I told y'all that. So I don't have an issue with the pharmaceutical companies or anything like that. I'm not anti-medication because I know there is good use for pharmaceuticals. I know there are times where where medication can come in to place, right? But I have a right to have my own opinion and I have a right to have my own belief. So I'm not going to scream at somebody using medication and say you're doing the wrong thing. But I can be pro using natural medicine to heal yourself. I have a right to be that way, and I have been since my early 20s. And I just
Yeah, the reason I started to over explain with this ADHD thing was because when I was recording this clip in the wee hours of this morning, this is like around 2 or 3 in the morning, I started hearing a lot of noise campaign in the background. In fact, in a little while, you're even going to hear in the clip somebody walking on the street with a horse. It was like 1:40 something when I first started doing the recording AM. So I just, was hearing a lot of noise campaign in the background and the video didn't pick up on it, but I heard it. And so I started to over explain and I think even put my foot in my mouth with the nonsense. It's just a poem. That's all it is. I'm over explaining myself. It's just expression, freedom of expression. That's all it is. It's nothing deeper than that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. If anything, now that I've been through what I've been through and put in this program, you could say I've kind of somewhat turned into a conspiracy theorist to a certain extent. But I'm not, I've never been a conspiracy theorist. I've always thought outside the box, but that's about it. It's just a poem. That's it. It's not a big deal.
am of the belief that you can use natural herbs and medications to heal yourself. I'm coming from a Bible standpoint and I'm coming from my own perspective and my own, my own subjective viewpoints. Also research or whatever, But the point is, I'm more so the type that's going to tell you to take a herb to heal yourself rather than take a pill. But again, I can see the use of medication in certain instances, and I'm not anti-medication. So let me be very clear about that. But in this video, I'm just kind of talking about coming to the realization that I had ADHD. Talking about the fact that I used to be staring off and daydreaming in class, and the teacher would be emphatically trying to get my attention. And I, just talking about the fact that some of the things she was teaching me, I didn't necessarily agree with. Because it sounds controversial. Where I said I'm teaching false history. Now, do you think that that's fair? That's a lyric that's in there. I know that sounds controversial if you hear about some of the things I shared in my car, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Again, this song was just me expressing myself. It's just poetry. Again, just talking about my experience with ADHD and how I genuinely felt back then. Because a lot of that stuff I wasn't interested in, to be quite real with you. Especially when it came to math, for instance, or history class. History class too. Like sometimes I wasn't interested in some of the stuff that was being taught. And again, it's not that I have an issue with the things that was being taught. I don't care really. It's not that serious. It was just poetry. It was just expression. I was just saying how I felt back then. I do remember that sometimes history class was just boring to me. I didn't care about some of the content that was being taught. Some of it to me I felt like was being, and again, it's not a race thing. I'm not even talking specifically about race. With history, it's confused. It's complicated. I'm hearing the stupid bird in the background and it's messing me up. I'm already not a good public speaker. I hate when they do this. But anyways, just understand, guys, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. That's not what's going on with this song. It was just expression and me talking about how I felt about my ADD. So with the medication thing where I was talking about the lies that they sold me, that sounds so conspiratorial. But I was literally just talking about, because you have to understand around this time too, again, like I said, I had started getting into the holistic medicine in my early 20s, but around this time, my sister and I had started like befriending people in the holistic medicine community. And then some of them do have negative views towards the pharmaceutical companies. Not all of them, but some of them do. And so some of them do feel like, certain medications are meant to keep you not well rather than get you better, or not necessarily meant to keep you not well, but just meant to keep you, meant to not heal you, kind of meant to just like, what can you say, hide symptoms rather than actually heal whatever the problem is. And so we were encountering people like that had that type of mindset. And so this was kind of like the influence that was on me back then. So again, it wasn't me being anti-medication or anti the pharmaceutical companies, but it was kind of the company I was keeping back then too. Not to talk down on anybody, everybody has a right to have their own perception and their own belief system, but the company my sister and I, my older sister and I, was keeping back then, were keeping back then, were people that, they were, had kind of extreme views, some of them, as far as medication goes. Very diverse people, people from different backgrounds. It wasn't a race thing. When we were into the holistic health thing and we're hanging out with that community of people, that was the most diverse group of people I had ever hung with. It was different people of different nationalities, races, ethnicities. There was a Jewish lady in there. I talked about that. And that encounter that I had, we used to do something called Meeting of the Minds, where all these different people with different ethnicities, belief systems, etc., would come together and talk about our belief system and why we believe the things that we believe. So it's a very open and understanding environment. But most of the people in that community were pro holistic health. I'm just keeping it real with you. And some of them had some extreme views when it came to that. And so I did have that influence on me as well in my early 20s, moving into my mid to late 20s. So again, I reiterate, I'm not anti-medication, not anti the pharmaceutical company. But when I said lies that you sold me, I was more so just saying, again, talking about the fact that I don't need this medication in my viewpoint and my perception to be okay with this ADD thing. I don't need medication for the way God made me, is how I was feeling about the way my brain was. I don't feel like I needed to pop a pill. I didn't think I needed to pop a pill because of the way the Most High made me. I was just saying that. The fellow was saying, right? But I didn't mean to come like at this standpoint, like accusatory, like the lies that you sold me. It just sounds so extreme. But it's just how I was just expressing myself. It's poetry. I was just expressing myself. It's not as serious as it sounds. But of course, the way they paint it, when you're targeted, everything is, like Eric Snowden said, is used against you. You know how long ago I wrote that poem? Years ago, and I haven't had any problems or anything problematic, as far as pharmaceuticals go, or conspiracies, or going against people, people of different, whatever, nothing like that. I haven't had issues like that throughout the years. It's just one isolated song that I wrote, but they would use that because they use everything. They use everything. I'm telling you, everything becomes ammo when you're targeted. They use everything as ammo. And it's really dangerous and scary when you're targeted. Eric Snowden talks about it. So he said you have to be very careful and prepared when you're targeted because everything is underneath the microscope and they use it like ammo against you. Anyway, so I wanted to play this song for you because I feel like I went into like a tangent talking about that, and I think it's because I started hearing noise in the background. Of course, that made me start to over-explain because I didn't intend to stay on the explanation that long. It was as simple as it is. It was a poem, right? It's a way for me to express myself, like I've been doing throughout the years. I express myself through writing. That's what this was. But I just want y'all to hear the flow, right, and see the penmanship, see that my writing style hasn't changed, and also see that I've had a good cadence. I've had a good cadence. The flow is a little bit different to what it is now. I wouldn't even say the flow. I'm saying the wrong thing because the flow is the cadence, but it's kind of the flow too. But even just the sound, I played around with my sound. And if I could have gone to BandLab right now, it would show you that I even had a different sound when I first started doing the recordings again. And then I played around with it a little bit more and started doing this sing-song thing. And I like that vibe. Anyway, so let me go ahead and let y'all hear my poem. And I'm going to put the lyrics up too. This is from, as you guys can see, 4 years ago, from 2019. I'm nomadic, Traveling in my mind is a habit. Back in school, they live was problematic. Teacher getting mad, yelling at me all emphatic. Had a sad look in her eyes, looking like it's tragic. Guessing she got tired of my blank stare. Trying to break my mood and figure why I don't care. Teaching false history, now do you think that that's fair? How could she really wonder why my mind was not there? My diagnosis ADHD, chemical imbalance, a lie that they told me. Toxic prescription headed to my mother coldly. Man, I'm thanking God that I am not the old me. Okay, guys. So that's my lyrics right there. And again, I know it sounds conspiratorial. It's really not a big deal. It's not that serious. It was literally just a way of expression. Just talking about how I felt about having ADHD and that diagnosis. Because it was a certain point in time, and I've said this in older videos. I think those were the videos that got deleted. When that computer was confiscated, there was a point in time where I didn't even think ADHD was a real thing. Even though I knew I had focus issues, I kind of felt like, okay, well, maybe it's just because I don't find this content interesting, because I had even read an article like that. I don't want to go into details because I don't want to, open any new cans of worms. And they take everything I say. This is how it works when you're targeted, and they use it to create these false narratives. So I'm not going to really go too much into detail about what I had read back then, about certain things and why I felt like maybe that's why I wasn't focusing, because I just didn't find the stuff interesting. But throughout the years, I realized ADHD is a very real thing. It's as real as can be. But I just want you to understand, throughout the years, I've gone through different understandings, different ideologies, and different belief systems. And with time, you learn different things, right? And you come into different understandings. And so for me back then, ADHD or ADD seemed like something fictitious to me back then. I felt like, okay, maybe it's just because the content being taught is not interesting to me, or it doesn't relate to me. Maybe that's what's going on. And with the math thing, I don't find it useful. That's not something we're going to use in everyday life, especially like in particularly algebra, those type of things like that. Basic math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, you're going to use that in everyday life. But the other stuff, the abstract math, I just didn't see the purpose of it. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, well, maybe that's why I'm not focusing. This stuff is just boring to me. That's how I felt. And I was like, this isn't a real thing, this ADD thing. They just want me to take pills, like that kind of way. I didn't feel like that back then. This is why in the song you hear me say, thanking Yah, I'm not the old me. Because me back then, I actually believed the ADD thing. I was even taking the coffee. I remember my middle school teacher, she was so nice. She used to make me coffee, and to help me, and it used to make things worse. Whenever I would drink the coffee, I was really in space then. And I know she was trying to help, because coffee's supposed to, help you stay alert and stuff. But for me, in my case, it was making things worse. I was really out the window then. But that's the point. I really believed it back then, but I didn't want to take the medication. Even back then, I knew that I wasn't really into taking medication. From since I was young, I've been that way. It's kind of the household I grew up in anyways, where it's more of like a holistic health type of household and environment. That's the kind of household I grew up in. So I didn't want to take the medication, and my mom gave me the option. And I'm grateful that I didn't, because then my younger siblings, right? All of us have ADD, just so you know. All of us. It's hereditary. So my younger siblings got diagnosed with it as well, and they did opt to take the medication. And it was having some adverse effects. They were having some bad side effects. It was even, I think, causing depression in one of my younger siblings and causing her mind to feel weird or whatever. So I was actually grateful that I had made the decision not to take it. Anyway, so then, years later, I grew up and stuff. I started getting into holistic health and learning all the stuff that I started learning for myself about holistic health. And I was even more, not even say anti-medication, but more, I almost said the wrong thing, not more anti-medication, but more pro-holistic health. More the kind to push taking natural things to heal the body and that type of stuff. So even then, back then, even though I didn't believe the ADD to be a real thing, because that's what I started to kind of think, this is why I said, thank goodness I'm not the old me, that type of way. I was in that time frame thinking that it wasn't a real thing. Even if I did subscribe to the idea of it being real back then, I would have been more so the kind to, take natural things to sharpen my brain cells, or to build, new brain cells, that type of thing. Take natural herbs and things like that can enhance brain cell growth or whatever, sharpen the mind, sharpen focus. Those are the type of things I would have done instead of taking medication. Anyway, fast forward to now, I definitely believe that ADD and ADHD is real. I can tell you that it's real, especially with the research I've done recently and stuff. I understand that it's a real thing. But even now, still, I wouldn't promote taking medication for it. There are other alternatives that you can use to cope with that. And that's where I'm at right now. Anyway, so that's my ADD song. My God, I've made the video way longer than it needed to be. This is my Love Thyself song that I wrote. And again, I wrote this song literally, guys. First of all, I want y'all to look at something, right? Look at the thumbnail. Again, this is from 4 years ago as well. I was going to the Hebrew church when I wrote this song, right? Look at the thing on my chest. Do you see that that's the Star of David, the Hebrew star that you see Jewish people wearing? I was Hebrew back then. I wasn't on anything weird. I was going to church. I was saying my prayers. I was writing poetry like I've always done. And so this poem was written. It was dedicated. Like another poem I wrote about my ex. Like I've wrote many songs about him. Actually, I only have two here on YouTube. This one, and then the "Say You Love Me" song, which is weird, but not weird. It's not weird. Not to say weird. Obviously, he took my V card. So that's what happens to girls when the guy that takes you or whatever. Typically, that's how that works. If you're a girl, y'all know how that works. So, anyways, this is another poem that I had written for him. This one, and then the "Say You Love Me" one, and both of them were written in class, just so you know, because 2018 I was in school for the second time. I wrote that in class, and then the "Say You Love Me," the "Love Thyself" one. I know I didn't write that one in class. I didn't. I wrote that in my dorm room. I remember I wrote ADHD and "Love Thyself" in my dorm room because I was trying to write new poems since my brother-in-law was telling us about going to the studio. I was like, oh gosh, let me come with some new content. And that's why I wrote these two poems. But the "Say You Love Me" was written at the beginning of 2018. And thank God, thank the Most High, emailed it to myself. Because typically when I write poems, it's in a book and then it gets thrown to the side and I forget about it. But I emailed it to myself. I think, like I said, that one was written in class and that's why it was emailed to myself. And then I found it recently by fluke when I was looking for evidence and receipts about the cyberstock and whatever thing. Every day I struggle with my vanity. On my knees every night, praying for humanity. Got a spirit on my bed, feeling it demanding me. Soul stuck in purgatory, I'm just trying to break free. Vision through my third eye, just to escape the soul tie. Brother took me so high, energy mixed with bold lies. Trying to be monogamous, sex and love are synonymous. I found that out the hard way. The boom boom didn't make him stay. Just a toy when he wanted to play. Cry my eyes out every day. Broken and neglected. If I don't love myself, talk to someone else respected. Okay, guys, so that you can see I've been writing, I've been a lyricist, right? So let me break these lyrics down because I'm already hearing the music in the background and I know how they like to create false narratives. So when I said I got a spread on my back feeling that demanded me, I was talking about my alcoholism. That's what that line was about. Because it had been years of me dealing with alcoholism. And when I got back to school, that was when I was sober. But understand that that was something that had been a struggle for me for years. So this is the spirit on my back feeling that demanded me. I'm talking about the alcoholism. Then I said, soul stuck in purgatory, I'm just trying to break free. Again, I'm talking about the alcoholism and the ongoing struggle that I had with it. Because after getting raped, after being a blackout drunk for 2 years, then I was a functioning alcohol in 2017. So I had this ongoing struggle with alcoholism. And also, before I came home from Tallahassee, my drinking had started up there. I wasn't a blackout drunk up there, but even up there, I had a drinking problem. Then I said,
So, just for clarity, guys, what I'm talking about is the timeline of my life, right? So, from my early 20s up until my late 20s when I wrote this song. My drinking started in my early 20s. So, after what happened with my ex, around age 22, 23, that was when my drinking problem started in Tallahassee, when I was in school for the first time. Remember, if you listen to my story, you'll hear me say that I went to Tallahassee with my older sister and I was up there for a few years. And that was where I got my associate degree. So I was in school, community college, right? And so things didn't work out with school, at least for the time being. I failed this math class multiple times. And although I had a 2.7 GPA or an 82% grade point average, still lost my financial aid. At the time, my mother was not aware of the fact that she could use my ADD as a disability to help me, right? So I ended up losing my financial aid due to something they started doing called completion rate. So because I failed that math class more than once, even though my GPA was good, I lost my financial aid. And I was literally, 2 classes away from getting my associates. I had that math class and I had one other class I needed to take. So I remember that being really discouraging for me and really depressing. We were struggling at the time. I was living with my sister, my brother-in-law, and my niece, and also my roommate who I had the rocky relationship with. We moved out from her because things were toxic. Not going to go into the details about that. You got to listen to my story. But we were struggling. We were in a 3-bedroom townhome trying to pay and make ends meet, and only my brother in law and I were working at the time. So I was depressed about that, stressed out about that, dealing with what was going on with the ex, with him leading me on, hence the song, the poem. He was leading me on. And so I did start drinking. I had a drinking problem, right? But it wasn't anything like what it became when I moved back home from Tallahassee. I wasn't a blackout drunk. I never had any blackout moments when I was in Tallahassee. That started when I moved back home, around age 23, 24, when I moved back home. I think I was 24 when I moved back home for the first time from Tallahassee. And that was where the real journey with alcoholism, began, because I dealt with other things that I talked about in my full story, in addition to what had already started the drinking problem. And I'm not making excuses. I made the choice to drink. Nobody made me do that. But there were things going on in my life that influenced my decision making. So, anyways, I had 2 years of blackout alcoholism here on island, and that was where I got raped. And then my third year of alcoholism, where I kind of cleaned myself up. I was able to pay my way back into school, and I was able to take those 2 courses, the math course and also the other course I needed. I was able to take it virtually, 2 online courses. They had that available. I was so grateful. Got my associate's degree, and that's when I got that job, my first job with the Department of Education here on island. And so for that third year, 2017, I was a functioning alcoholic. And I talked about in my full story why that happened. I was dealing with a lot was going on. I'm not going to go into the details about it in this video for the sake of time. Check out my full story. I talked about it. I talked about that in detail. And I believe I even talked about that in the summary as well as in the commentating video. But in 2017, I was a functioning alcoholic. So for 3 years, you can basically say I was active, an active alcoholic. 2 years of blackout drunkenness, and then 1 year of functioning alcoholism. And then when I left and went back to school for the second time, around the time when I wrote this poem, I was sober. I still drank socially, not sober like how I am now, where I wouldn't even take a drink of anything. I was the kind of sober back then where if I went to a social event, I wouldn't mind having a drink, but I was sober, no longer an alcoholic when I wrote this poem and when I went to school for the second time. So just giving y'all the breakdown.
um, just escaped a soul tie. I'm talking about my ex. You know how they say when you have sex with somebody, you get tied to them? It's called a soul tie. And now, of course, these lyrics didn't age well with them trying to paint the narrative they're trying to paint. But anybody who knows anything about that terminology, I don't have to say anybody that knows anything about that terminology. That's a common phrase. I know most people know that that pertains to sex when you talk about a soul tie. Obviously, you can even see the next line. I said, brother took me so high. I'm talking about my ex. And I was talking about the fact that it seemed like some sort of soul tie. Because after him and I did whatever, typically me, I'm not the kind that sticks around when a guy is acting crazy. And actually, I'm the kind that's typically running, if anything. But the fact is, after him and I did whatever, it felt like he had this hold on me. And so this is what I was talking about when I said, soul ties. So I was talking about because I was acting out of sorts, not acting like myself. And he took me so high with whatever, this is what I'm just talking about the real experience of how that can be sometimes, with a man and a woman, and that when that gets into the picture. Anyway, so then energy mixed with bold lies. Energy, I'm just talking about that feeling, that feeling that you get when you're feeling, the endorphins of love or whatever, lust, whatever it is, whatever. Energy mixed with bold lies, because bold lies was him. He was putting on like we were together, and painting it like we were together and saying the things I wanted to hear. But really, he wasn't operating like we were together. He was more so just using me. You can see the song. You can see what I'm talking about. More so just using me, kind of like a friends with benefits type of thing, but telling me what I wanted to hear, basically. Um. Anyway. What else did I want to talk about? What else is it? I said vision through my third eye. And what I was talking about was the pineal gland. And if you're familiar with holistic health, like I said, and anything to do with your body, you'll understand that the pineal gland is the part in your brain. Some people call it the third eye because that's the part of your brain where insight comes from, where clarity, mental clarity comes from. And this is why I don't use toothpaste that has fluoride in it. This is why I try not to drink water that has fluoride in it. My older sister and I, when we were younger, we used to drink spring water when we first started learning about holistic health, because we learned that purified water typically has fluoride in it, and that calcifies the pineal gland. we stopped using toothpaste that has fluoride in it. I can show you my toothpaste right now. It doesn't have fluoride in it because things with fluoride calcify the pineal gland. And so we came into the understanding that the pineal gland is a part in the back of your brain that provides mental clarity. So a lot of people are operating on like this lower type of, not, let me not say that. That sounds condescending. I have to be very careful about the way I say things, y'all, because they take everything and they warp it. And I myself can realize that I can come across as condescending sometimes, not intentionally. So let me, try and be clear about what I'm saying. But some people don't realize, I didn't realize it until I learned about holistic health, that there are these parts of your body that are blocked up because of the diet nowadays. Like the fluoride in the water that we bathe with, the fluoride in the toothpaste, because that's going into your pores when you brush your teeth with that toothpaste that has the fluoride, like Colgate. Those regular brands, that people like to use. What's the other one? Those tip Crest, those typical toothpaste that people like to use that have fluoride in it. The fluoride gets into your system and blocks your pineal gland. Not just your pineal gland; it's bad for your teeth too. I mean, let me be careful what I'm saying. This is my, don't take advice from me. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm just coming from my own biased, subjective viewpoint. Also, I've done research over the years. But again, I'm sure there's research to support fluoride, right? Just like there's research, there's always research for both sides of a debate. But I'm on the end where I'm for holistic health, right? And so I'm not for fluoride. I use toothpaste that doesn't have fluoride in it. I'm the kind that uses deodorant that doesn't have aluminum in it. The deodorant I use is the natural kind of deodorant. That's just how I am. So I'm familiar with the pineal gland. My older sister is too. It's not anything bad or negative. But again, with the things that happened recently in this last year with the false narratives that they started painting and the weird things that started happening, I have to be very careful about some of the things I'm saying and sharing. But that's what I meant when I said the third eye. I was literally talking about my pineal gland and the clarity that comes from your brain when your pineal gland isn't calcified. Typically, most people, and I'm not saying this in a condescending way, this can be looked up, typically with the diet the way that it is today, where people aren't eating healthy, right? And there's a lot of fluoride in the toothpaste and the water, etc. Oftentimes people have a calcified pineal gland and they don't even realize it. And so that's what I was talking about basically, because I was eating healthy. I knew my pineal was good. I knew I had good mental clarity. And so this is what I meant when I said vision coming from my third eye. Your third eye is your pineal gland. That's what I was talking about, my pineal gland. Back then I didn't think twice about using that terminology because it wasn't stimuli like it is now. But that's what I was talking about. And this poem was about my ex. You can see the rest of it, what I'm saying in it, right? So then you're trying to be monogamous, sex and love aren't synonymous, because I did start to confuse the two. First of all, I can tell y'all now, I realized that I've never been in love. I actually recently, for the psychological evaluation that I took for the correction officer job, I remember them asking me, one of the questions they were asking me if I had ever been in love, and I said yes. Because I was thinking back in my head to feelings I had felt for, whatever. I was like, I have been in love before. But then I realized now I don't think I've ever been in love. I actually don't think so. I think I've felt love-like feelings with like, I want to say like maybe three guys in my life. I've dated a lot of guys, but out of all of them, I would say maybe three of them I felt love-like feelings for. But I've never been in love. I can admit it. I'm age 31 and I've never truly been in love. But with my ex, I did feel love-like emotions, especially after certain things happened between him and I. Because I also learned about that too, that when you have intercourse and stuff, it releases endorphins in your brain, right? That makes you feel that feel good feeling, similar to like how you feel when you take drugs. It's a similar feeling, and so if that's new to you, that feeling, then you might think you're in love with the person that you experienced that with for the first time. And so I think that's what was going on in that moment. And so I obviously that's what was going on. It was a soul tie, as I wrote in my lyrics. And so I thought I was in love, right? But I realized I've never actually experienced love before. So that's what these lyrics were. I said sex and love aren't synonymous, because back then I was equating that feeling, that feel good feeling that I was feeling, for the first time with him. I was equating that to love, and I'm realizing that's not love. That's what I came to that's what I was realizing when I wrote these lyrics. So that's what I meant. Obviously, and I think that one's self-explanatory. I didn't have to explain those lyrics. And I said trying to be monogamous because I didn't want to be hopping from dude to dude. So that's what I meant by trying to be monogamous. And this is also why I stuck around so long with him. Not only just feeling that feeling of confusion of whether is this love or is this lust, whatever, but then also knowing how I was back then, and knowing that I wanted, to spend my life. I had just rose colored glasses on, man. And I had this very sheltered view back then. And I thought I was going to end up marrying the person that I did that with for the first time. And so this is why I said trying to be monogamous, because I was trying so damn hard to make it work with him. And it just was not, he wasn't there mentally anymore. You know, after we broke up for the first time, I think his heart left the situation. And so then when we linked up again, he was coming from a different standpoint to what I was coming with, you know, and so this is why what happened. Anyway, so the rest is self-explanatory, y'all. This is just about loving myself. Being used, as a woman, women have gone through this. Not all women. Some women are fortunate enough not to go through this, but there are many women who have, and just feeling used and just, finding that love for myself. That's what's called love thyself. Just learning to love myself, and at the end coming to the realization that he's not going to respect me, or no one will respect me if I don't respect myself. No man will respect me if I don't respect myself. And that's what this poem is about. But I'm just trying to show y'all, I've been writing poetry for years. This is nothing new. It's been years since I've recorded, but throughout the years I've written poetry. I just am not the kind to share it often. I only shared these recordings because they sounded, in my opinion, so damn good. Not trying to sound cocky or conceited. But again, it was just that realization that, wow, I actually sound good. It wasn't just like, okay, I can write because I knew I was a good writer. But, oh, wow, I actually sound good when I'm recording. So let me share it. One of those kind of things like that. And as you can see, I didn't take it seriously. I stopped recording. I didn't stop writing poetry. I stopped recording. And then when my targeting warped and changed what it did, because I've been targeted since 2020 and I wasn't recording and doing all this stuff. That didn't happen until after I tried to relocate. Things blew up, went viral. I came back home and ended up kind of my targeting shifting and changing into what it changed into, and kind of being unemployed, and kind of feeling like I couldn't do anything without getting backlash. I was doing the coding. They kept taking the current, doing noise campaigns, all the stuff that was happening. I talked about that in several videos. And so that's what led to me doing the music again. I didn't have anything else to do. I'm not the kind to sit stagnant, never have been. And so this is why I started doing my music again, writing. And again, it's not doing music, it's writing poetry. This is why I have to keep reiterating writing poetry. But this time I was recording because I'm aware of the fact that I sound good when I record. And so I literally just had wrote the poem Watchers because I was laying on the bed staring at the roof. And I remembered that they were doing the noise campaigns and I felt like I couldn't do anything without getting a reaction or backlash. And so I was just like, damn, they're always watching me. And so in my head, I just, just like how it always happens, the lyrics started coming in. I was like, man, damn, they watching. They always watching. Like how to supervise the be when you clock in. This is, and that flow, by the way, because that was the first poem I wrote when I started doing poetry, or recording, I should say. Let me not say doing poetry again. When I started recording again, that was the first poem that I recorded a few months ago, right? And I said a few months ago, but it's more towards the beginning of this year. That was the first poem that I recorded, the absolute first one. I was like, wait a minute, let me download my band. This sounds dope. I opened my book and I wrote the lyrics like I always do when I write poetry. I'll email it to myself. Just never been the kind to record. I said, let me actually record this. And I went and I downloaded my band lab. They saw me do it. It was off a whim. It's not like I sat there and calculated and planned this. I was laying there staring at the roof and they were antagonizing me and doing noise campaigns. I said, damn, they always watching. And I started to rap it. And then I sat up, I said, let me write this down. And I wrote it down, and then I downloaded my band lab. And that was when it started, me doing the actual recordings, because I've always written poetry. The recording thing happened by fluke a few years ago in 2019. Again, I reiterate what my brother-in-law, who went to the church with me, I realized that I sound good. I already knew I had a cadence. I already knew I sounded good. But I heard myself back on record, and I was like, okay, I sound okay. You sound kind of good, girl. That kind of way, but I didn't care. I didn't take it seriously. And then again, I reiterate, a few months ago, more towards the beginning of the year, I was doing the coding, right? Trying to salvage what I could of my life, because everything I was doing was being sabotaged. I even went on Fiverr and tried to start a writing business. I put together my LinkedIn. I put together this nice presentation on Canva. I had these different gigs going on Fiverr, and they kept, messing with everything. They were messing with my interviews, messing with everything because of the things that I said in my car in Florida. That was when my targeting shifted to what it did. That was when my targeting changed to what it did, when I went up there to the States and I had some of the outrageous or egregious reactions that I had. And I shared the offensive Hebrew Israelite propaganda in my car. That was when my targeting changed, and all this shadow networking and social engineering and false narratives and all this weird stuff that started happening to me started happening within my targeting. My targeting was nothing like what it is now before I left this island. So that's what it's really about. But anyway, so I laid there on the bed and I wrote that poem. Decided to download BandLab, and this is when I started experimenting and writing poetry and recording myself hardcore, because I had nothing else going for me and I couldn't do anything else. And that was literally all it was. And then of course they took even that and created a false narrative and made me uncomfortable about even that. But that's how the program works, and I'm learning and realizing that. And so this is why I've explained myself and I've provided evidence, receipts, documentation to show that I've been writing poetry. My writing style hasn't changed. My lyrics haven't changed. I've been using homophones. I've been using figurative language. I've been expressing myself. I even broke it down what my technique is, using a word, honing in on that word, similar to how you do with the thesis statement in a paper. I broke it all down, right? So there's nothing more for me to explain. It's just how the tactics of the program works, where they, try to villainize you and illegitimize everything, right? They try to make everything seem illegitimate. So anyways, what else did I want to show y'all? So I showed y'all that poem. I don't need to show y'all the Say You Love Me, but I'll even go there. That I recently recorded, as you guys can see, a few months ago. But again, I reiterate, that poem was written in 2018. I'm not going to go and pull the email out. I don't need to do that. I already did that in my Asperger's music connection. It was either the part 1 or the part 2 video. These 2 videos with the thumbnail of me in the belly shirt, that's me in my early 20s, by the way, y'all. I thought it was whatever. Anyways, it's in one of those videos. But I actually recorded it a few months, I want to say a couple months ago. Let me see when I recorded it. 4 months ago. So I actually recorded it when I found it. Immediately when I found it, I made a big deal about it because I was like, yes, more evidence to corroborate what I'm saying, that I've been writing poetry and that my writing style hasn't changed. My cadence hasn't changed. Well, not that you could tell if my cadence changed in this particular instance, because this wasn't a recording. This was lyrics that I emailed to myself. But you can still see the lyrics didn't change. My writing style didn't change. I've been using homophones, right? I've been using figurative language, double entendres, etc. But the flow, you couldn't hear the flow. But still, y'all heard my older songs. Y'all heard I had a good flow, right? I've been using a cadence, and I've been had a good flow. So anyways, I recorded Say You Love Me 4 months ago with the new flow that I've been using. So now you can hear that, and I'm also going to show you the lyrics, though, so you can see my writing style and how it hasn't changed. So here are my lyrics. This is from early 2018.
So guys, this is the part that I told you where the video ended prematurely because I heard noise in the background. And instead of pausing it, like what I was trying to do, I ended up stopping the video. So go into the next clip now.
I don't know if you heard the loud truck driving by in the background, but it literally made me Bassity. And I've told y'all in several videos what Bassity means. I almost feel like a broken record repeating it. But the OCD in me won't let me not tell you, because I feel like, well, what if this is someone that hasn't seen the older videos with the explanation? But I'm from the islands, as some of y'all probably know by now, from the Virgin Islands, right? However, my father's from Trinidad, so I'm half Trini. And so some of the words I use come from that culture. And so the word bassity comes from that culture. And it just means flustered, discombobulated. So, like, for instance, somebody drives by that makes you nervous. You do something stupid like what I did and end the video by accident. Or you're in the store and you see someone you have a crush on and you start throwing shit in your cart that you don't need. It's just another way of saying flustered. It's like island slang, you know? So I got bassity just now because I heard the big loud truck drive by. And I hit stop. I meant to pause it. I was trying to pause it so that the video wouldn't pick up on the sound, and I hit the stop button by accident. So I'm super annoyed, because if you've listened to my recent videos, you'll have heard me say that the video merger apps aren't working for me anymore. So now what I'm having to do is take my screen recorder and record whatever videos I'm trying to merge, record that part, then record the next clip to make one video. I've done that like with the last 2 to 3 videos, actually. So that's irritating. I'm irritated. But also I'm seeing that the video is way longer than I wanted it to be. So I'm going to quickly play this for you so y'all can hear the difference. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it by now if you've been following me. I'm sure you've heard my newer music. But again, you can see my lyrics haven't changed, right? Same homophone, figurative language type lyrics, right? Same penmanship. And my cadence hasn't changed. I still ride the beat. I'm still able to ride the beat well. You know, you have big stars, not talking down to him again, I reiterate though, like Blueface, who can't ride a beat, you know, so they're rapping off beat and stuff. No disrespect to him because he obviously has a niche of people, right? He's big and famous, so obviously somebody likes what he's doing. So I'm not talking down on him, but I'm just saying that's one thing about me. I've always had a cadence where I can actually say my stuff to the beat really well. That hasn't changed. My lyrics haven't changed. The only thing that's changed is the way that I'm spitting, right? So my flow is a little different, and that's just from experimentation and playing around and being versatile and staying home, not doing anything else. So I've had time to experiment with my sound. It's not really that complicated. Anyway, so you can see these lyrics, right? It says his skin was darker than the deepest sea. He was so beautiful, he could only be. Homophone, right? Obviously, that's supposed to be BE, but I purposely put the homophone BEE. And that's because I wanted it to tie in with the word honey a few lines down. So then I said he shared parts of him, I shared parts of me. Honey, that's a double entendre because I'm tying it into honey like it's sweet, you know, like, and it ties in with the word be, the homophone I used a few lines earlier, but also honey, like I'm talking about, you know, that situation when I said he shared parts of him, I shared parts of me. I know that might sound vulgar. I'm sorry, but I'm just.
Oh my god, that is so annoying. Sorry about that, guys. That is so irritating.
This is me. I'm a writer. This is what I was writing about. And so that's what I was talking about. And I said, well, he could only be homophone, right? Obviously, that's supposed to be BE, but I purposely put the homophone BEE. And that's because I wanted it to tie in with the word honey a few lines down. So then I said he shared parts of him, I shared parts of me. Honey, that's a double entendre because I'm tying it into honey like it's sweet, you know, like, and it ties in with the word be, the homophone I used a few lines earlier, but also honey, like I'm talking about, you know, that situation when I said he shared parts of him, I shared parts of me. I know that might sound vulgar. I'm sorry, but this is me. I'm a writer. This is what I was writing about. And so that's what I was talking about. And I said, love never felt this sweet, right? Again, that's tying in with the word honey. And then you can see the rest of it, right? I don't have to explain the rest, but you can see that I've been using figurative language, been using homophones, I even use double entendres. I'm a writer. This is what I like to do. I like to read. I'm an avid reader, and I am a writer. And this is from 2018. This poem, early 2018. You know, like I said, I showed you in it was either the part one or part two Asperger's and Music Connection video. I showed y'all the email from 2018, early 2018, where I found this poem by fluke, by the Most High, because I was actually looking for evidence about the cyber stalking, cyberbullying situation. So, anyways, listen, the only thing that's changed about me, like I said, y'all, is the sound, that I'm doing it in a more sing-song voice. That's the only thing that's changed. And again, that's just experimentation. And due to me sitting home and having time to experiment with my voice, because everything else I was doing wasn't working out. You know, they were blocking up everything, noise campaigns, you know, having an issue with everything I was doing. And I was sitting here twiddling my thumbs. And so I experimented with my sound. Ooh, big whoop-de-doo. Many artists do that. Anyway. His skin was darker than the deepest sea. You so beautiful. He could only be. He shared parts of him. I shared parts of me. Honey, love never felt this sweet. The beat that our hearts turn to won't deter you. This love is true. Misunderstood, but we found complete. Memoir of my king and me. True love, what an awesome feat. Alright, guys, so that's it. That's all I wanted to show y'all. My music hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed, again, like I said, is the way that I'm flowing it out. So my cadence is the same, meaning the way that I'm riding the beat. You heard my song ADHD. You heard my song Love Thyself. Had the same cadence.
And the way that I'm flowing it out is the same too. I meant to say my tone. My tone is different. Just reiterating that, guys.
The way that I ride the beat, the way that I'm saying the words to the beat. My lyrics haven't changed, still using homophones, still using figurative language, still using double entendres. Sometimes I do throw double entendres, and I love doing that. It's wordplay. And I'm a writer. I've showed you I'm a writer. I showed you I'm an avid reader. I showed you that I'm socially inept. So that lines up with my personality type. I showed you videos expressing that I'm an INTJ and Sigma female, which is, a different type of personality type for a female. It's a rare personality type. And so all of that, the ADD, the Asperger's, all of that ties into my ability to write well. So that's what it is. That's it. It's not complicated. It's not that serious. I've been doing it for years. It's not a big deal. It really isn't. But still, like I like to do, I like to create these videos, to kind of refute, the false narratives that they come with, but then also to support and protect myself. That's why I make these videos, because I've really been knocking down these false narratives. It's to the point where, I showed y'all for my agenda video. If y'all check that video out, you will see that the shadow networkers, gang stalkers, whatever, took my video down for a bogus reason, because I'm coming with such good content and refuting all of their false narratives. Excuse me, I didn't mean to click on that. I'm coming with such good content and refuting all their false narratives. So sorry, I didn't mean to come out of that. They struck my video down for a bogus reason, and told a flagrant lie. Talked about the fact that I was talking false information about vaccines. Not once did I mention a vaccine in that video. So that's why when I what's the word I'm looking for? When I appealed it, they had to put the original video back up. But I took down the original, and I purposely kept up the one that's up, the one where I'm showing y'all that they took my video down. And I showed y'all the process that I was having to go through to get the video back up. And then I did a screen recording of the video when they allowed me to review my content. So the audio's a little bad in that video because it's a recording of a recording of a recording, but it's still, you can hear it clear enough to hear the information I was sharing, because that was good information in that agenda video. But not only that, you can see that they struck my video down for a bogus reason. It's hilarious. It's to the point where I'm coming with such good content to refute what they're trying to do with their social engineering and their false narratives, trying to malign me. I'm refuting it with my videos, and it's to the point where they got so desperate that they struck my video down with a bogus strike that they had to take back. So that's what's going on, Anyways, I'll talk to you on the next one. Now I'm so annoyed. 8 minutes of content. I'm going to have to now, do a whole recording of that recording that I just did and this clip. That's so annoying. Anyway, I don't know if I did say that I would be putting, links in the description box. So I will, like I said, guys, put the links to, those things that I told you I'd put there. The 3 videos telling my story of how I became targeted. And the other links I told you I would include. Links to the technology used on targets to surveil them. Links to some doctors talking about this program. Those links will be in the description box in the comment section. Anyway, I'll talk to you on the next one. Peace out.
All right, y'all. So this is where I'm going to share the things I wanted to share with you. So first, let me just show y'all very quickly that Say You Love Me. And I'm going to try to do it quicker this time because like I told y'all, I tried to make this video 2 different times and it came out longer than I wanted it to be. Let me see how I'm doing with the time. All right, at 1 hour 26. I'm going to try and wrap this up in 10 minutes if possible. Okay, quickly, first of all, I want to show y'all the email, the Say You Love Me email. So you guys can see that that poem was written in early 2018. And I already shared these emails in my Asperger's and Music Connection part, I believe it's the part 1 video. It's either the part 1 or the part 2 video. But now sharing it in a more recent video. And this video in particular, because this is the discussion about my music and validating it. So first of all, earlier when I was trying to make this video, I couldn't remember what the name of the email was. I kept typing in Say You Love Me, and I forgot that I had taken a beat because remember, I wrote this poem in the beginning of 2018, April of 2018, and there was no beat there because this was before I had ever recorded. Remember, I did those recordings in midway through 2019, like July of 2019 was when I recorded for the first time. So this was early 2018. I hadn't ever recorded yet, at least not professionally. So I wasn't doing the thing where I was finding a beat to say my poetry over. So this is why I kept typing in Say You Love Me and the poem wasn't coming up because I got the Say You Love Me from the beat that I used to record it recently, a few months ago. The beat that you heard in the background, say you love me. But the name of the email was Poem to My King. Remember I told you I was it was an impromptu poem that I wrote in my class. But earlier I was scrolling through. I was like, okay, let me go back to 2018 because I know it has to be here somewhere, right? And when I was doing that, I'm not going to sit here and scroll through all the emails like I did earlier. I came across an email from LOZ. And LOZ is an acronym. Sorry for the stammering, guys. LOZ is an acronym for Light of Zion. That's the name of the music group that my brother-in-law runs, right? So those emails that he sent me that I came across by accident, this keeps happening to me. Even coming across the Say You Love Me poem was an accident when I was looking for something else in my emails, as I mentioned earlier. But anyway, I came across emails from my brother-in-law's music group where he had emailed me directly the recordings that I shared with y'all a little while ago. The Love Thyself recording and the ADHD one. And when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, it sounds so much better than how it sounds on YouTube. And I recalled that back then when I posted it, the audio was playing way lower than the initial recording. And I totally forgot because I never cared enough to try and get it to play the right volume. So the two songs that I have posted that I shared with you a little while ago, those are not how it sounds. That's not it in its raw form. It sounds watered down. You can't hear the audio clearly. I even remember my brothers reaching out to me when I posted it on YouTube initially, and they're like, "Yo, Reef, it's not playing good. We can't, we can't hear it good. It sounds like it's really low." And I remember that being frustrating and annoying, but I didn't care enough to really try and change it. So I just left it there like that. But I want you to hear how the audio sounds. First of all, this is more evidence to corroborate what I said, that the opportunity came from my brother-in-law because he's the one that records. And that was how that happened. It wasn't something I sought out, and it was something connected to church, right? The Hebrew church, Light of Zion. This is what the name of his music group is. So I found those emails by fluke earlier, like what keeps happening to me. And I realized, whoa, I want to share that in this video as well, so y'all can hear how it sounded when it's not watered down and muffled. So let me go ahead and share. I'm just going to share Love Thyself and ADHD with you all again, so you can hear how it sounds, the raw recording, where it's not muffled down. And then also there's another poem I came across, or not poem, song I came across with my younger sister, because remember I told you my brother-in-law came to she and I about recording because he knows she sings and he knows that I do the little poetry, rap, whatever you want to call it, thing that I do. And so she and I had created a song for the Most High, but I can't find that version. But I did find a version that this guy from the church did with my younger sister. And I remember I was supposed to hop on that track with him, but we never got a chance to do it. And his poem or his rapping is a form of poetry, but poetry isn't necessarily rap, like I said. So me saying his poem isn't necessarily incorrect. But his rap is so deep and it's real too. It's really stuff he went through. I remember being, I almost used a stimuli, but whatever, I'm going to say it. I remember it being touching when we heard it back then. Like give you goosebumps type of thing when he recorded it. I was sitting there when he recorded it. So I am going to share that also, just because, I really like it. So this is Love Thyself now. You're going to hear it more. It sounds way more clear than the one I shared earlier from YouTube.
Every day I struggle with my vanity. On my knees every night, praying for humanity. Got a spirit on my back, feeling it demanding me. Soul stuck in purgatory, I'm just trying to break free. Vision through my third eye, just escaped the soul tie. Brother took me so high, energy mixed with bold lies. Trying to be monogamous, sex and love are synonymous. I found that out the hard way. The poom poom didn't make him stay. Just a toy when he wanna play. Cry my eyes out every day. Broken and neglected. If I don't love myself, how could someone else respect it?
All right, y'all, no long talk because like I said, I don't want this video to be too long, but y'all can hear how much more clear that sounds, right? It's like way more clear. It almost makes me feel motivated enough to want to try and post it again on YouTube, but I don't want to. I just like the timestamp and, the fact that you can see I did that 4 years ago, so I'm just going to leave it how it is. But it's so much more clear than what you heard from YouTube. All right, let me share ADHD with y'all. Oh, that's the wrong one. It's in the other email. Give me a minute.
I'm nomadic. Traveling in my mind is a habit. Back in school days, it was problematic. Teacher getting mad, yelling at me all emphatic. Had a sad look in her eyes, looking like it's tragic. Guessing she got tired of my blank stare. Trying to break my mold and figure why I don't care. Teaching false history, now do you think that that's fair? How could she really wonder why my mind was not there? My diagnosis ADHD, chemical imbalance, the lie that they sold me. Toxic prescription handed to my mother coldly. Man, I'm thanking y'all that I am not the old me.
Y'all can hear how much clearer that sounds. Right? It's crazy. Let me just quickly say this. I don't want to do too much talking, because that's what made the video too long earlier. It came out to be like 2 hours and change. I'm trying not to let that be the case this time. But that line, toxic prescription, that's to tell you this is kind of like, it's just expression, man. It's not to be taken seriously. It's not that serious. Yes, I do have a message with all of my poetry, but it's not that serious and it's not that deep. And I'm not trying to offend anybody. It was just literally expression of self and just talking about what my perspective was with this ADD thing, right? Where I said, though, toxic prescription handed to my mother coldly, as I mentioned earlier in the prior clip, I was not for the medication. My mom gave me the choice and I chose not to take it. So me saying toxic prescription handed to my mother coldly was a dramatization, like similar to a movie that's made or based on a real life situation. When they make a movie based on a real life situation, and it's not really, excuse me, I'm sorry, I heard noise in the background, it threw me off. But when they make a movie based off of a true story and then they add dramatizations in there, so it's a depiction of what really happened, but then they add extra stuff in there to dramatize it. That's kind of what that line was just there, for you to imagine what my perspective was of the medication. But the medication was never handed to her coldly because I told her no, I didn't want to take the medication. Anyways, so moving on to the next thing. The other email actually came from, instead of LOZ group, it came from directly from my brother-in-law. So I have to look his name up. It's Emmanuel Levi Ben Yashrala on here. And that email was there too. It was right underneath the LOZ email. I don't know. I might really have to scroll all the way down to find it, because it's not popping up with me just typing his name in for some reason. Here it is. Found it. All right. No, not that. Here it is. It's a very deep poem that you're about to hear, or song rap.
True story. I used to always sit and ask myself, check me out.
I used to always sit and ask myself why I'm so strong from all the trials that I've been through. I'm still holding on, and even though I had fam, I was feeling alone. 6 years old, mama was gone, out running the streets, left me in the house with nothing to eat. I used to climb and get fruit out the tree, no telling where I would be if it wasn't for y'all watching over me. Seen a lot of things that a kid not supposed to see, but through it all I stayed strong regardless. Always home alone, daddy he was gone, mama was a harlot on drugs, and I was suffering from lack of love. How can a little stone make you leave your own flesh and blood? Mentally abused, lost and confused. 7 years old, I was just starting school. My grandma took me in, but I felt like a burden, and deep inside I was really hurting. I felt nobody cared, but real talk, true story.
So y'all heard that? That was fire, man. That thing gave me goosebumps. So that was all done. You know, he went to the church with us too. This is the vibe we were on, singing about Yahweh and Yahshua, and then also creating our own little vibes that we were creating and recording in this little studio session. This was all recorded in the same studio session in this guy from the church's apartment. So this is what was going on back then, y'all. Anyway, so let me now go and show you the songs I wanted to show you real quick. You know, trying to keep this under 2 hours. I'm hoping they're still in my gallery and I don't have to go over to BandLab and download them. Please tell me that. Oh goodness, they're still there. Thank goodness. All right, so I don't know which one is which. Okay, the first one I'm going to share with you guys is Levels. I want to show y'all the lyrics, but if I click on BandLab, I realize that the audio starts to go low. First of all, you stop hearing the audio, and then when I come out, the rest of the audio from there on is low. And I know this from earlier when I tried to make the video. So I'm not going to go to the lyrics, but I'm going to play it, and it's clear enough. You can hear it's kind of scratchy, because I didn't know how to use BandLab like that. You know, back then when I had just started playing with BandLab, and my brother-in-law is the one who told me about BandLab. He said, yo, Rifi, if you're too shy to go in the studio, you can download BandLab and make your own music. And so that's why I downloaded BandLab, and I even knew about BandLab was because of my brother-in-law. But anyway, so listen to Levels. And again, guys, to me, this poem out of all of them, I mean, I have many poems from back then that kind of reminds me of my poems from this year, but I don't have access to them. These are the ones that were recorded. Out of all of the ones that I recorded from back then, to me, Levels is the one that's the most like the ones from this year. And this was recorded around the same time when I recorded Love Thyself and ADHD. I wrote it all in the same time frame. As a matter of fact, and I don't mean to over-explain this, but I started hearing noise and that annoys me. I literally wrote Levels a week after I wrote Love Thyself and ADHD, just so you know. Guys, this is not Levels. This is Queen is what I'm realizing. But I'm going to just go ahead and play this. Well, you know what? I'm not going to yet. You know why? Because when I play this, then I'm going to want to play the other Queen for you and give you a quick rundown about that. So that's not what I want to play. I'm looking for Levels. No. No. This is it. This is Levels. My bad, guys. And also that Queen one that I'm about to play for you next from back then was also written in the same time frame. I wrote Queen the same day that I wrote Levels, just so you know. Look, don't get it twisted. I'm lifted. Heritage shifted. Back in school was the whiz kid. Never listened. The gifted. Eclectic. Social norms neglected. Never was reckless. Somewhere between calm and collected. Excelled further than expected. Under constant analysis. I get it, I'm anomalous. You need a shovel just to dig me. Cause this level's gotta dig deep. Now you could hear that I changed up the flow even back then. That didn't sound like that West Coast vibe that I had going on with the ADHD. Again, I reiterate that these poems were created in the same time. I made this a week after I made ADHD and Love Thyself. And also, too, you can hear the wordplay that it's the same writing style where I'm using figurative language. You know how, oh, by the way, let me correct myself because I noticed in this recording I said paradigm. I don't know why I said paradigm. I meant to say paradigm. Paradigm shifted. So I don't know what was going on with me, why I said paradigm, but I meant paradigm shifted. But anyways, with the deep thing, you know how I mean, the dig thing, you know how you say, like, I dig you, this old school talk, but you know, like when you're saying you dig a person, that means you like them, you vibe with them or whatever. I'm saying just to dig me or to vibe with me, you're going to need a shovel because I'm a deep person, but that's figurative language. And then the song is called Levels. And I said, because it's levels, you got to dig deep. So it's kind of like, like you got to dig deep, different levels to get to the real me type of thing, right? So it's figurative language and wordplay. My writing style has not changed. Anyway, the next thing I want to share with y'all is Queen. And I wrote that first because this guy reached out to me. You know, out of all the people that were reaching out to me back then, he was one of the ones that was open to working with me virtually, where I didn't have to meet up with him. And he wasn't even in the same city with me. He was in Atlanta. And so he was kind of like me playing around with the rap thing, you know, just not no professional or anything like that. And that's also why I didn't feel intimidated by him. And so he reached out and he said, look, you seem to have like a conscious vibe of like your music. He said, why don't we write a song about a king and a queen? And he said he was going to write the king verse, come from that perspective, and I was going to come from the queen perspective. And so I wrote my verse, and then he didn't ever. First, what happened is he came with his own beat, and I came with my own beat. And so what he did write, he started to write it, kind of like how I started to write it. It wasn't meshing. What he wrote wasn't meshing what I wrote, and he wanted to go with the beat he wanted to go with, and I wanted to go with the beat I wanted to go with. And then we kind of just dwindled off and said that we were going to work on it and kind of figure out what was going on. And then he stopped posting on Instagram. I think something personal was going on with him. This is what he wrote me when I contacted him the last time, right? When him and I spoke the last time about it. He was basically telling me he was dealing with some stuff in his life. And I noticed he just completely stopped posting on Instagram. So that never ever developed into anything. And so I just had this random verse for Queen, and I didn't bother to finish it, you know, because I actually didn't even continue with the recordings. I was doing a lot back then. I was working 3 jobs, substitute teacher, post office. I've said this like redundantly in several videos, night shift security, and I was taking a full load of classes. So this thing was just a hobby for me, and I really didn't have time for it, like how I do now, where I'm home twiddling my thumbs. So I never ever really finished Queen. And so this year when I got back on BandLab and I came across that song again, I said, I want to finish it. You know, I want to make this into a full poem. And I said, and I want to record it again, but I couldn't find the beat. I didn't know what the name of the beat was because back then, you know, I wasn't necessarily using beats with the name. Like for instance, I would have my own poem that I would write, and then I would just go to a beat and put my poem over that beat. And then I started back then actually doing what I do now, where I would take the name of the beat and I would write a poem based on that. But initially, I had just a bunch of poems that I had written. I wasn't recording or anything. So I would just find a beat and then record my poem over that beat. But then eventually, when I started writing new poems, I would use the name of the poem for inspiration. I started doing that back then. And so with the Queen thing, this was another thing where I didn't find a beat called Queen. You know, I actually just wrote, like the guy told me, a poem based off of a Queen perspective, and then I found the beat. And so that's why I couldn't find the beat that I used back then, because I don't know what the title of it is. And this was years ago. So I wasn't able to find that beat again because I actually wanted to continue on that vibe that I had going on with Queen. So I just found a new beat this year, and I took those same lyrics. I cut out the last line, you know, ain't effing on random care about my health, because I just felt like it was kind of ratchet. Not to sound like that, you know, because I can write that kind of music too. I just don't venture that way. I could write anything. I'm a versatile writer. I could write some really rowdy stuff if I wanted to, but I just choose not to. But that last line, I just, you know, I took it out, you know, just felt a little kind of hardcore or whatever. I took it out and I kind of changed it up, and then I added more lyrics to it, and then I put it to a new beat. So it sounds like a completely different song. And if I hadn't told you that, yo, this is the same song that I wrote 4 years ago, and you made that comparison, you might not have even made the correlation that it's the same song, but it's just a different beat. My sound is different. I'm singing it in more of a sing-song voice, and I added new lyrics to it. But let me play you the new version of Queen. I'm talking too much. No.
Cocoa butter sheen, naturally serene. On her shoulder you can lean. I'm talking about a queen. A queen. A queen. Respect herself. Knowledge is wealth. Consuming herbs from earth. Care about her health. Wise from birth. She knows her worth. Backbone support. She's always in your court. Mother of a nation. Rib of man in creation. Something like a dream. I'm talking about a queen. Queen.
You know, y'all, I'm realizing that I played this for y'all and I don't think I played Queen, the original one. I'm not sure. I can't remember because I remember I started playing it by accident and I went to Levels. So I was giving y'all that explanation, but I don't think I played it for y'all. I can't remember. So just in case, if I played it already, I'm sorry that I'm playing it again. I'm going to play it again because I actually can't remember if I played it for y'all. So that one I just played is the remix, the one that I created this year, where I continued on with it and I used a different beat. This is the original one from 2019.
Cocoa butter sheen, naturally serene. On the shoulder you can lean. I'm talking about a queen. I'm talking about a queen. Respect herself. Knowledge is wealth. Ain't fucking on random niggas. Care about their health.
Yeah, so that was that with that. You can hear how cheesy it sounds too. Like I really did not know what I was doing with the equipment on BandLab. I was really new to it. That's why it sounds so off, the audio. But even still, you can hear my cadence, right? I had a strong cadence even back then, right? So I have had a cadence for years. I've always been able to flow to the beat. Anyway, and my writing style hasn't changed either. The other song I wanted to play for y'all was Stuck in a Dream. And that's one of the first poems I wrote when I started recording again this year. And I'm playing that for you so you can hear the versatility and you can hear that I'm not using the sing-song voice. And this was made in the same proximity as those sing-song voice poems. So that's to tell you I've been switching up my flow. It's just not even my flow, my tone. It's just versatility and me playing around because I've been home and I've had the time to do it now since I don't have other things going on. So let me go ahead and play Stuck in a Dream for y'all.
Stuck in a dream, or so it seems. It's a nightmare, but I don't care. I'm alright here, doesn't seem fair. Perpetual fear, intellectual snare. I'm stuck, but what does it mean? Obscene, residual. My visual is obstructed, feel abducted. I'm trying to wake up, trying to take this makeup off of my face. I need some space, facade in place. Unbothered, not the case. Just a defense, trying to make sense. Different lens necessary. Maybe I'll see clearly. Maybe then you'll hear me. Talking to the Most High. You remote control the whole vibe. You the reason that I'm still alive. Can you please shake me up? Please wake me up. Until then, I'm stuck in a dream.
So y'all can hear how roachy the audio sounds. You hear how roachy that sounds? That was one of the first songs I did when I first started recording on BandLab again. So that's to tell you I've been practicing and getting better at using the equipment, teaching myself similar to how I was teaching myself how to code. And that's why the audio is sounding more and more clearer. But my cadence hasn't changed. Even in there, you can see I was riding the beat really well, right? And you can also see the wordplay and the lyrics. None of that has changed. The only thing different now is that the audio is a lot clearer because I've learned how to use the equipment better. And then also I was playing around with my tone. So I started doing the sing-song thing and I really like that vibe. And it's similar to like Lil' Kim and Biggie because Lil' Kim when she used to rap, and I said this in my earlier video, so I kind of feel like a broken record repeating myself. But when she started rapping on the block with Biggie, she was on the same block with Biggie rapping, right? And she was a tomboy, just so you know. Lil' Kim started off as a tomboy, and most rapper females are tomboys. Not all. I'm not going to say that. I wouldn't ever make an ignorant comment like that. But most rapper females are tomboyish, typically, or they start off that way. And so Lil' Kim had like this edge similar to kind of, we don't sound nothing alike. I sound nothing like Lil' Kim. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying similar to how like my older music, like for instance, the Queen, the initial Queen, where you heard how hardcore that kind of sounded. Like that was it. Like she had a good cadence and she sounded really good, but she was more hardcore. She had more of a roughness around her. And so Biggie told her, look, if you want to market yourself, and I'm not trying to market myself, by the way, guys, not at all. I'm just doing this, I reiterate, as a hobby and for fun, because I had nothing else going for myself and I was here in the house twiddling my thumbs bored. But for Lil' Kim, Biggie was trying to help her make it, right? And trying to help her pop off like how he was popping off. And he told her, look, if you want to make it and you want to, want to sell and you want these guys to pay attention, he told her that she needed to change her vibe, like be more sexy is what he was telling her. Not sexy, more feminine. And so he was kind of sexy, but more feminine is what he was telling her because she was too rough around the edges. You can watch the Biggie movie and see that that's what happened. And so she started to change up her flow, not even her flow, but her vibe. And she came with this new vibe, same cadence, same style, right? Not the same style, same cadence, but she changed up her style. That was all. And so it's kind of similar to that. A lot of artists do that. Even Nicki Minaj, like a lot of artists do that. They change up and their style and they can change things up because they're versatile. That's what makes a good artist. Anyway, so that's all it was, really. I just changed up my tone and that seemed to be a big deal, but that's just how it is with this program. Everything is a big deal and everything gets warped and twisted and it's just weird. Anyway, so that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to show you. That's all I wanted to share with y'all. This is it. I just wanted to put this video together so y'all could hear some of my older poetry in comparison to some of my newer poetry and see that I've been doing this for a while and nothing has changed. My flow hasn't changed. Well, my flow kind of changed, but not really. My flow and my cadence for the most part has remained the same. My lyrics, for sure, my lyricism has remained the same. And if anything, I've just been playing around with my tone and switching up my tone and the style that I'm using. That's what's been switching up. Anyway, that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Wow, just under 2 hours. Well, at least it's not 2 hours and change like what happened earlier. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, y'all. I will talk to y'all in the next one. Peace out.